Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to Unveiling What's New, Expert Insights and the Partnership Opportunities in Targeted Protein Degradation, Part 2. I'm Echo Hindoyang, CEO of MSQ Ventures, a New York-based cross-border advisory firm specialized in life science. Before we begin, let's recognize the recent transactions propelling targeted protein degradation to the forefront of medical innovation. Pharmaceutical collaborations, strategic investment, and research advancements have accelerated progress in this field. Leading pharmaceutical companies and biotech startups are joining force to harness the potential of targeted protein degradation, resulting in a rapid expansion of drug pipelines. Investors' support has further fueled the research efforts. So today, I'm so honored to have the pioneers in this sector from Merck, Avnes, Dagran Therapeutics, and BioTherics will shed light on the transformative power of this approach and the exciting partner opportunity it presents. So thank you. Let the panel discussion begin. And next, I would like to invite each of the speaker to introduce themselves. Since we have only one female speaker, so we will invite Lily introduce yourself first. Also the further one from Shanghai.
Okay, thank you, Echo. It's an honor to be here and nice to meet everyone. I just want to give a very brief introduction. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Dagran Therapeutics. Dagran is a startup biotech company focused on the discovery and development of novel molecular glue degraders. We have a proprietary technology platform with a completely self-designed de novo synthesized molecular glue library compound and a comprehensive assay system for the discovery and validation of novel molecular glue degraders. So our platform has proven its efficiency and proven its value by generating a very robust pipeline. We have disclosed at least one or two targets that has been discovered and validated by our own that's not been discovered by other companies before. So we have other pipeline programs in discovery now. So we're hoping that we will grow and expand this platform and advance our pipeline program. So we're a Series A stage biotech company in the middle of fundraising now. We're also actively talking with multinational pharmaceutical companies to develop research collaboration to further grow our programs. So myself, I'm a biologist by training. I worked at big pharma and small biotechs in my past. And this is the first time I'm being a CEO and founder of a startup company. So very excited to be here and hope to learn from everyone here.
Thank you. Definitely, we will learn how you started and how do you successfully raise the $22 million in the difficult time. So next, we will go to San Diego. Sam.
Thanks, Echo. And hi, everybody. My name is Sam Nasseri. I'm the Chief Business Officer at BioTherics. And surprise, surprise, BioTherics is also a targeted protein degradation company. We have been around for a little while, really building off the foundation of the first generation of protein degraders, now commercialized by BMS, to design now next generation protein degraders using a platform which we call Prodigy, which allows us to design both molecular glues and bifunctional degraders. And in all cases, we've used our platform to design a pipeline of first-in-class degraders, in many cases for clinically validated or preclinically validated targets, to try to showcase the differentiated potential of protein degraders. We're based in San Diego and privately held. Myself, as I said, I'm the Chief Business Officer. I lead all business development and strategy efforts for the company. My background is as a chemical engineer, and then I transitioned to industry via consulting with McKinsey and Company, and then Merck, and then jumped into the exciting realm of biotech. So thanks everybody for joining this conversation.
Thank you. We cannot wait to learn more about your platform, Prodigy, and also your success for the fundraising so far. Thank you. And we come to San Francisco. Nikki, thank you for coming back.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for having me over. Nikhil Mutyal, I'm Executive Director in Business Development and Licensing Group based in San Francisco. I'm part of the Pacific Hub team. I lead oncology, cardiometabolic, and neuroscience BD efforts for opportunities in Western US, Canada, Asia Pacific region, which are pre-proof of concept. So essentially before phase 2. By background, I'm PhD scientist by training, but I've been doing BD at various companies, and I joined Merck about 4 years ago. Hopefully, Merck needs no introduction, but really our goal is to deliver, life-saving medications to patients with high unmet need, and for that we are open to any possible modality or approach, including protein degraders, which is a very exciting modality where we have had some recent deals over there, which we'll speak about in some time. So really glad to be here, and thanks again for having me over.
Thank you. We cannot wait to learn more about all the transaction behind this Merck and all the companies that wanted to partner with you. And so next we will come to Connecticut. Randy.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to participate in the panel. I lead corporate strategy, business development, and investor relations for Arvinas. I've been at Arvinas for about 5 years, but Arvinas was founded back in 2013, so I've been there for about half its history. Arvinas was founded to create PROTAC protein degraders. We had our first clinical start back in 2019, and we've pushed that along and now have 2 programs in getting towards late-stage clinical development. One of them is for breast cancer, is an ER degrader, and is in 2 different phase 3 trials right now. And then we have an androgen receptor degrading PROTAC that's planned to begin a phase 3 trial in prostate cancer by the end of this year. And in addition to that, we've got other programs in neuroscience and a bunch of others in oncology as well. I joined Arvinas back in 2018. At that point, it was private and preclinical. Since then, we've gone public and moved programs into the clinic. Prior to Arvinas, I was head of strategy at Alexion for 3 years, a rare disease company also in Connecticut, and a few years at McKinsey before that. And then I started off, as some of the rest of you, as a scientist as well, with a PhD in immunology, but it's now been quite a while since I was on the science side. But thanks again for having me.
What a kind of a journey you had with Arvinas.
It's been great.
Thank you. So we know that Arvinas actually have been making transactions with other bigger pharmaceutical company, and also even recently partnered with the AI company and also the emerging biotech company. Maybe we can start with Randy first. And what's the transaction made you so proud, or any of the transaction you wanted to share with the audience today?
Well, you're right. We have, through the history of Arvinas, done quite a number of deals as we grew over time. And we started off with a number of different target sort of discovery deals, which were really important for us in the early days, including one with Merck, Nikhil, and a few others along the way. Maybe I'll jump right to our latest one, which is probably, for us, the most transformational and really, I think, it really indicated a shift in the space for us from a type of situation where we really felt like we had to go and prove ourselves in the technology, to one where it felt like it was acknowledged as a modality like anything else. So we did a deal with Pfizer in 2021 for the breast cancer program, which was really important for us because in that program, we're starting in very late line patients, as we do in oncology, but we think there's a lot of opportunity to move into earlier lines of care as well. And for a company that's small, obviously moving into adjuvant breast cancer is just going to be really tough to do on your own. So the deal we did with Pfizer was really important, gave us a large amount of capital up front, but most importantly, it gave us the capabilities of a big pharma partner to help run a number of trials, at the same time. So at this point, we've got 2 phase 3s ongoing, but in addition to that, we've also got a number of combination trials and phase 1b trials going on as well. And clearly we wouldn't be able to do that by ourselves. So I think for us, that was the deal that sort of said, all right, we've proved the concept that PROTACs can be drugs, and now we need to do a traditional sort of deal to help get us through development and over the goal line and co-commercialize too. So it's letting us do all those things.
Mm-hmm. So that's the transaction really proves the concept of technology and also help you develop the assets to be leverage the resource to develop your asset to be later stage.
Yes, yeah, exactly. No.
And now you have been like blooming and with a different transaction with the different companies now.
Well, so in the wake of that deal, which was obviously a program-based COCO globally, we still have been doing quite a number of deals, and you referred to one in AI, the one we do with Insilico, to make sure that even though we started 10 years ago, that the platform that we've created, we want to make sure that we enable continued progress and the ability to keep creating PROTAC degraders, not just for very well validated targets like AR and ERR, our first 2 programs, but the ability to hit undruggables and identify new E3 ligases. So a lot of the deals that we've done in the past couple of years have been to enable the platform. So different technologies to enable screening or the use of AI and things like that. So we've definitely been working pretty hard on that on the platform side. And I think we'll continue to do that as well, in addition to other types of deals.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So next, Nikki, you already made the transaction with Avinas and also other companies. So which one is your favorite, or like why?
Yeah, sure. So the Arvinas transaction, I think, predates both myself and Randy's, was in 2015, and very one of the first transactions Arvinas did, and Merck as well, where we got into protein degradation. So really pioneering transaction there. The most recent one that I can talk about is the one we did with the company in UK called Proxygen. So that was a very unique transaction in terms of molecular glues, where we are working with them on their platform, which enables to screen for glues and hits across multiple targets at once. So they can actually multiplex for multiple targets and then identify any potential hits that can be available, and then sort of work on those, optimizing those, and doing some SAR and furthering them into development candidates. So that approach really suited us because we were not sure. We had targets in mind, undruggable targets, where degraders could be the modality of choice compared to inhibitors or antibodies or other approaches. But many of those targets we were not sure if we are really going to get. Like, let's say if we were to only give 2 targets, it is possible that 2 of them nothing works out and we don't get anything out of it. But by multiplexing multiple targets at once, there is a possibility that we may hit a couple of them, and then we may get leads on those. So very unique transaction in terms of we actually screen for multiple targets up front together, and then if there are hits, we work on those together. So that kind of de-risked approach a little bit from our perspective as well. And it was a multi therapeutic area deal as well. So we have targets there across multiple therapeutic areas.
So for this one, when you select a platform, what was your criteria, or why did you choose Proxygen as your platform to test the different targets?
Yeah, so typically we do conduct a landscape exercise always when we are looking for any given modality, or so we do speak with all the companies and continue to speak with all the companies. So we obviously look for good science, good technology, but also more importantly, availability of targets. So some companies may have targets that we want to work on available for partnering. Some may not have that. The financial and deal considerations are always there. I think what really ticked the box for Proxygen was, as I mentioned, we were interested a little bit more so in molecular glues, strategically for multiple reasons, which I can't get into, but that was really the area that we were trying to get a partnership on from molecular glue perspective. So that narrowed the field a little bit. And then, as I mentioned, we wanted somebody who can screen multiple targets at once to identify hits, which can go into being drug candidates. So all of those factors I mentioned: technology, science, target availability, space, molecular glue, financial deal considerations, and being ability to work together very closely. All of those are considered, not just for this transaction. It's generally true for any other modality or transaction that we do.
Yeah, I real approximately actually is from Australia. So I just wonder how many companies you talk to get to close this transaction. You're mute.
It's based in UK, not in Australia. So yeah, I would say tens of companies were looked at as a part of landscape. I think all of them we spoke to and evaluated, who are out there, publicly known at least, not under stealth mode. We spoke to all of them.
It's really number game, right? You have to talk to everyone and to find out the perfect fit one. Thanks for sharing. And Sam, please share what's the transactions you want to share with the audience.
Yeah, sure, Echo. So we recently at BioTherics announced a collaboration with Insight, focused on the discovery and development of molecular glue degraders for novel, quote-unquote, undruggable oncology targets. This is the company's first collaboration using our Prodigy platform, and as kind of Randy mentioned in the earlier phases of Arvinas, kind of taking these first steps in collaborating with another company in leveraging our platform, but deploying it towards areas that we're not deploying it towards internally, was really the goal of this collaboration with Insight. Of course, both companies will benefit from the expertise, the kind of relative expertise that each company brings to the table. But I think, specifically for BioTherics, this collaboration has allowed us to stretch our platform towards targets that are, somewhat more risky, and where we may internally not deploy our resources just because of the risk, whereas Insight is willing to take a little bit more risk given the breadth of their pipeline and portfolio, and it really allows us to kind of diversify the application of our platform towards somewhat less risky targets internally and somewhat more risky targets through a collaboration like this one with Insight. So we're very excited. We're very excited to see what progress that we can make towards targets that really have not been able to be drugged using other technologies, which I think is one of the exciting promises of targeted protein degradation. So, we're eagerly looking forward to seeing what data we can share, and hopefully that contributes to the field moving forward as well. The only other thing I would just add is, to Nikhil's point around interest in molecular glues, I think that's certainly a theme that we're observing as we engage with pharma companies, both mid-size and large pharma companies. I think thanks to Arvinas, the bifunctional degrader or PROTAC approach has been validated back in 2019. I think a lot of deals were done subsequent to that around bifunctional degraders, and I think we see certainly a trend towards continuing to progress bifunctional degraders, but more interest from pharmacos on partnering around molecular glues. And so we've kind of oriented a lot of our discussions in that vein.
Yeah, so that is a very interesting you mentioned about that. So I just wonder, like when you to approach, you are like a target to partner with the bigger pharma, and so what was the challenge in there?
Can you say, so what was the challenge in
to convince the company to partner to pay you to work, right?
There's always many challenges. It's kind of like dating, there's, sometimes there's mutual interest and sometimes there isn't, and that's okay. You know, I think in the current environment, the bar is high. That's true for investors. I also think it's true for pharma companies. As they look at technologies, as they look at programs, the scientific bar is high. And I think that's a good thing ultimately, but it does make it challenging for all companies to be able to transact on the programs that they want to transact. You know, I think the other piece is, as you think about targeted protein degradation now, you know, a lot of larger pharma companies have placed their bets over the last few years. So deals have already been done, investments have already been made in building internal horsepower around targeted protein degradation. And so the desire to do additional deals, I think, is really oriented towards much more kind of novel approaches. And Randy alluded to some of those novel E3 ligases, new therapeutic areas like CNS, for example. And so, you know, we as a smaller biotech, we need to kind of ensure that our platform remains kind of on the edge, on the leading edge of science, so that we're able to do transactions with pharmacos, because a lot of activity has already happened in this space. So that's a challenge, and we've got to kind of keep on top of it and choose which areas to invest in that could enable differentiation, not just today, but in months and kind of years from now.
Let's just make me think about it. We always say that it's kind of like Bizarre would say unmet needs, but actually it's so true, right? If you identify the unmet needs, you still can convince Nikki to pay you to get your asset to their pipeline. That's because the bigger pharmaceutical companies still, they want to get their target and the new technology and the platform to validate their targets as well. So thanks for you sharing. Next, Lily, please.
Yeah. So it's great to follow Sam. I think we're in the process of discussing with multiple pharma companies to do a research collaboration deal. So I'm experiencing all of that now. I think Echo, you asked why do big pharma pick a particular biotech company. I think it's a few things. One is the company needs to have something that's unique and that the big pharmas don't have, or it will take them a lot of effort to build, right? So in our mind or in our discussions, I think molecular glue, because this is an area that a lot of big pharmas want to get into, and some of them already have their own ProTech platform and glues they have not either have not built or are still early stages, so they want to explore collaboration. And also the biotech needs to offer something novel. You know, as Nikhil said, that they probably look at different platforms and pick the one that they think is the best fit. For Degram, we have a very novel molecular glue library that's differentiated from the lenalidomide core, and so we're in a different chemical space, so we can discover different targets. That's something we think we got a lot of interest on. And I think another point is it's best that the platform has some validation. So if you have a platform, you have programs that's advanced to a certain stage that the big pharma partner can look at and be convinced with that data. So I think there are a lot of things that you need to show to the big pharma what you bring to the table. But it's also, I think every biotech company want to do that to leverage the big pharma, because for example, we're focused in oncology ourselves, but there are other therapeutic areas we can collaborate with partners to expand into. So there are also reasons for us, not only the money and the validation, but also a strategic synergies through the collaboration with Big Pharma. By the way, congratulations, Sam, for the deal with Insight.
Oh, thanks, Lily.
Yeah. So since you have been sharing, so what do you see the China, the opportunity and the challenges in this field now?
I don't see us as we're located in China, but we also have lab in the US. So I always see us as a global or a small company, but we're global, where we compete with all the companies in the world. Like when Nico is looking for a company, he's probably not going to look for only US or only in Europe. So this whole space is global. So definitely technology-wise, we stay on the cutting edge of this whole field. We look at the entire space, all the players globally. So that's the competitive landscape. In terms of particular challenges in China, I think of course, the distance, like the time difference is one thing, but we go to the US to talk to the partners, where we have Zoom calls. The technology makes it a lot easier. I think it may, having an office, a lab in the US probably helps also that, in the future when we collaborate, there may be easier time to coordinate meetings. But overall, I don't see particular challenge with Chinese companies, as long as the technology is a leading technology globally.
Thank you for sharing. So I may invite Nikki give us the overview of the global TPD development landscape. I think you probably you don't miss any the company in the world. You probably see the all. And so could you please give us the insight?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as Lily mentioned, the science can come from anywhere. Good science has happening everywhere, in the world, be it Asia or, Australia or anywhere else. So we always have folks on the ground who are talking to companies, local companies in their languages, and hunting for innovation. So every day, we are seeing new stuff coming from, China and Asia quite a lot. There's new innovation in terms of target space, but also, fast follower wise, but a little bit more differentiation from, what approaches are already in the clinic. And especially from Korea, we have seen quite a few companies who are focusing on very novel approaches. So, people are focused on E3-based degradation. Now, the movement has been towards autophagy-based degradation. So, using the autophagy system, P62 and others to degrade. And there's a lot of innovation coming there from Korean companies as well. So, yeah, it's it's a very exciting field. E3s obviously have paved the way, but there's a lot of new and exciting innovation coming from various degradation machineries and approaches now, and not just degradation, but also induced proximity, which is sort of close relative of protein degradation, is having a lot of new companies being formed in that space. So when antibodies achieve sort of blocking, it can actually be done by induced proximity as well, and there are some advantages that can happen because of avoiding resistance pathways and keeping the response more longer, or having a non-blocking approach for ligands, things like that. There are multiple ways in which those are being addressed, and there are global companies that are paving the way there as well.
So we know the ADC, you closed the transaction with Kelun, and then actually Chinese company have been made the headline for ADC transactions globally. So do you think there's another chance the Chinese companies, the science will catch up to be another ADC?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very possible. We are seeing, companies like Degron and quite a few others from China who are emerging, very quickly with degrader approaches, be it, molecular degraders or bifunctional degraders, and the novel approaches, as I mentioned. So it's very possible, either completely novel space or what, China has done best also is innovating with clinically validated targets. So sort of, fast follower strategy as well. There's a lot of, sort of new take and innovation from a differentiation perspective as well. So I wouldn't be very surprised if you start seeing a lot of deals, already with Chinese companies, as we have seen with ADC companies in the recent past.
Thanks for share. Randy, you just mentioned the because the collaboration with Pfizer actually really speed up your drug development. And then recently you partner with the AI company and for the drug discovery. So could you please provide more the insight of how evidence to leverage the collaboration to speed up the drug development and discovery?
Yeah, sure. And I think on the clinical development side, I think it's everything I said before, just in terms of having the size and the scale to activate a lot of sites and get sites up and running and enrolling as quickly as possible globally in a way that we couldn't do. So the phase 3 trials that we're running are global, and it'd be real tough for us to do that on our own. At the other end, at the point where you're creating your first PROTAC degrader or your first molecular glue for some of the others, it really helps to have a starting point. I think the promise of heterobifunctional degraders has long been that you can take a weak binder and turn it into a PROTAC degrader that has specificity, even if you don't have tight binding. That is true, but it's also true that it's a whole lot faster if you start with a good chemical matter starting point. And so finding that for an undruggable target and getting the access to the size and scale of other screening operations or different technologies or using AI in the case of that deal, I think certainly helps that as well. And I think that what we've learned over the years is that you can speed up the start, that initial discovery, that initial finding that first hit for, creating that first degrader, and you can speed up the clinical development. I still think that the middle stage probably isn't that accelerated. So by the time you have a clinical candidate and you've got to go through all the things that every drug has to go through, like your DRF studies and your GLP tox studies and all that, I don't know that we've come up with a way to accelerate that too dramatically. That's something the whole industry has probably been working on for decades. But it's definitely the case that at that initial stage of what target you want to hit, finding chemical matter to it, being good at that will definitely save you a good amount of time on the front end. So I think that's why lots, not just Arvinas, lots of companies have invested heavily there to make sure that they have good screening and capabilities to identify binders to proteins that the industry just hasn't been able to drug.
Thanks for that sharing. So you just mentioned about your phase 3, the global trial. So that will be like what the regions are included in the phase 3 trial? Like that is you are part of the trial with the Pfizer, or the Pfizer is leading the trial?
Yeah, with Pfizer, and the phase 3 trials are led by Pfizer. So it's really leveraging Pfizer's global network, and most of the sites are US and EU based, but they go beyond that as well. But it really is, and that was a key reason for the deal, right? Is that Pfizer already has that in place, and it would take us quite a while to build it. But yeah, that's both phase 3 trials for 471 are operationalized by Pfizer.
Thank you for sharing. Sam, so you just mentioned about the novel target to attract the big pharma. So what are the other potential opportunity for the new technology and targets in this field do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nikhil alluded to several of those in his commentary, which I very much agree with. I think other approaches like autophagy mediated degradation, I think is certainly, you are seeing companies focusing on those technologies. Novel E3 ligase. When I first joined BioTherics about 2 years ago, all I heard externally was novel E3 ligases, and it's certainly an interesting approach. Of course, cereblon as an E3 ligase remains still the most validated approach, but I can understand the interest in novel E3 ligases, tissue specificity, in application of protein degradation. I think novel therapeutic area approaches, oncology has been the first port of call for TPD. Clearly, the next kind of avenue has been immunology, and more we're hearing interest in CNS and kind of optimization of these molecules for, to enable crossing the blood-brain barrier to allow us to access CNS targets. I think is certainly of interest. The last thing I would raise, which may also be familiar with other panelists, is the application of protein degraders as payloads for ADCs. Another kind of avenue of trying to get tissue specificity instead of a novel E3 ligase, using an antibody and using the degrader as the payload. That's certainly something that we've kind of been observing in conversations that we've been having both with ADC-focused companies, but also with large pharmacos, is the combination of these two somewhat validated approaches. ADCs are quite validated, TPD is getting there, so let's bring them together and try to find new ways to approach targets of interest, bringing these two validated technologies together. That's probably the only other piece that I would call out that I've certainly observed.
That's quite interesting. So as a biotech company with a limited resource and the funding, and so what's the decision-making process on these other opportunities in front of you to decide which one you are going to work on?
I can take that. Oh, do you want to go first, Lily? Go ahead.
Oh, no. I please. I thought that I wasn't sure whether it was a question for me or not.
I'll just say one thing and then I'll throw it to you, Lily. So you're right, Echo. It is a lot of discussion, certainly at BioTherics, around where do we focus. I think what's critical for a small biotech, where we're about 40 people, is focus. We can't do everything well. We can't be an ADC company and a TPD company and a CNS company and an oncology company. We have to choose areas to focus. And certainly our strategy has been to be very choiceful in where we allocate our internal resources, but to use partnerships to expand application of our platform towards different target classes, different therapeutic areas, novel technologies like the ADC piece that I mentioned. So, our internal mantra is focus so that we can execute well, and then use partnerships to try to expand application of the platform. Often that means that you have to build a little bit of proof of concept in order to be able to expand. So for example, if we want to go towards CNS target applications, we've tried to look at our oncology degraders and define what characteristics those degraders have, such as blood-brain barrier permeability, that may validate our platform to some extent in going for CNS targets, even though internally that hasn't been an area of focus for us. Otherwise, Lily, what would you want to build on?
No, I think you summarized it quite well. I think similarly, as a small company, we only focus on things we do well. For example, we don't do ProTech, we only do glues. And internally, we only work on oncology targets for now. But there is also a prioritization of all the targets that we discover which one to work on. We look at the validation of the targets, the data, and sometimes the novelty versus the data that's out there to choose the right target to work on.
Yeah. So Lily, you just mentioned you just choose not the ProTech, but the glue, and also focus on oncology. So when you start a company, you have so many other options front of you, and then when you raise the $22 million, you can do so much. So why did you make this decision to focus on the glue and also oncology?
I think it's mostly because the technology. Our scientific founder, who's a leader in this field of research. So the technology came from Yuan, who's a professor at Shanghai Tech University now, but he's been in this field. He's done this research for 20 years. So of course, the technology has applications potentially in PROTAC and molecular glue, we decided to focus on glue because we think there's better probability of drug-like properties. It's a pure small molecule from that assessment. Also, we have earlier, before the company was founded, we have designed a small library, a pilot pool of compounds to start, and we discovered a novel degrader that's also the foundation of our company, that we can start from a different chemical space for E3 ligase and develop a glue technology from that. So that's our original start. But right now we're focused on oncology. We could expand into other therapeutic areas at the appropriate time. Just right now we want to build our core first.
To prove the concept first, right? Yeah. So thanks for sharing. And so we have been talking about the partnership is so important. I think actually most of the speakers here have been successful to prove the concept or advance the drug development by partnership. And especially at this time when the investors hold their track tightly, the partnership becomes the BD, it becomes a hot position for the biotech company to get the partnership or get the non-dilute the revenue stream. So I would invite the speakers to share their like a really secret the sauce, how to the structure the deal, and what do you see like a balance between the protecting your own interest in, but also fostering the mutual beneficial collaboration, and then how can you maximize the value of the asset? Maybe I will invite Nikki starter first to see.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think my perspective is going to be quite different from rest of the others. So yeah, I mean, I think thinking about win-win is quite important. Whenever there are new modalities involved, companies sometimes, it depends on company to company, but some companies they may take a leap of faith and do big, deal with bigger target space and bigger transactions, bigger dollars upfront. At other end of the spectrum, there may be bigger companies who, would take a more conservative approach and say, okay, I need to see clinical validation before I can, jump in both hands and, put in like big dollars in, right? So, trying to understand, where the bigger company is sitting at is, going to be the first goal. Is this company willing to sort of go out there and take a risk on the novel modality, or are they in a camp where they are more conservative, right? So and then obviously it depends on what options smaller companies have. If they can get the big deal, multi-target, multi-million-dollar upfront, absolutely they should go ahead and do that. But if that is lacking, then really they should think very critically about what is it that they are trying to achieve. As Sam and others mentioned, there is situations where you have an asset, you want a global partner who has global capability. So find somebody like a Merck or a Pfizer who can do global studies, right? That should be the goal. If your goal is really to sort of advance your SAR or capability in certain direction, find a partner who can enable you with complementary, capabilities to do that. I mean, there's a lot of focus by board and companies on the dollars and upfronts, which is fair, but also thinking a little bit more broadly on what the partner brings to table, what are the complementary, capabilities, and how win-win can be created can be interesting. The third thing I'll mention is thinking outside of licensing deals can also be beneficial sometimes. And by that, what I mean is for companies which are starting out, thinking about evaluation agreements is not a bad place to start. So working together, either through evaluation agreement, having us test your compounds in-house, or starting out with one target or option for one target, can be a way to sort of share some of the risk together and get that deal that is needed as well. So those are just some of the guide points that one needs to think through. Obviously, one should do what is best for their company and their board and their investors. but these are just some of the situations we have seen from our side, which makes things different from what the other party needs and what we sort of are looking for as well.
Mm-hmm. So actually, to close the transaction, time is very important, right? It's like you want to wait more data, and then your asset value will be higher. But sometimes you need the money now. So how do you make such the decision? I see Randy is smiling. Probably you have some insights to share.
Well, I was going to say that you can always wait, right? You can always wait for one more bit of data to come out, hoping that it makes your case better. But at some point, you're right. You do need to pull the trigger. I mean, I think each deal is going to be so different that there is no magic, structure to talk about. So, Nikhil said some of this, but I think it's really important not to think about it from a one-sided perspective, because someone on the other company's side also has to, be chalking up the win for their company too, and making it truly the case where you're both succeeding. It really only works, especially with the bigger companies, if you share the same vision. If you don't, then it's going to be a slog. So we've been fortunate there, but I've seen situations in the past, and I think everybody has, where it's not. The other thing I would say on closing it too is, I think it can be tempting sometimes to let the BD folks and the lawyers, get in there and start working it out. But you got to make sure the scientists come along for the ride too, and their excitement continues, because they're actually going to be the ones doing the work at the end of the day, whether the scientists or the clinicians or anyone else. So I do think that even after the sort of initial terms are set up, as you're going through the long process, you got to keep the scientists talking, the interaction going back and forth, the preliminary, research or collaboration plans going. I think has helped a lot for us. So I'd add that too.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. I do observe a lot of the CEOs get so excited about their coming up, the readout, and then say, I want to hold on a little bit so I can get a higher valuation. Then the data come, that's bad. That's the drug development, right? More data.
Yeah.
Actually, most time is more average. It's unfortunately is 1% or probably single-digit percent is going to be better, and most of the case is going to be average. But it's really it's very interesting to see. This is psychology, and they wanted to bet. It's kind of like a gambling. I wanted to make a bet. And however, recent transaction, we advised the C4 Therapeutics close is preclinical. It's quite interesting. Beta Chinese company closed this transaction just, I think, probably a few weeks before the IND was filed. So most of the time, actually, the company will wait, right, for the more settle. However, because Beta did probably almost long time, I don't know specific the time, long time the due diligence, so they are very confident. So that's why they made such a move. Actually, it's a win-win because they get a very good price, and then this also is a win-win the situation. So sometimes I really see the timing is very important. So next, we have a few minutes. Probably I ask the one question to Lily and Sam about investor, because both of you successful raised the money in this difficult time. And so do you want to share some insights how to attract the investors, or what the investors like looking for to their companies like yours?
You want to go first, Lily?
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure, happy to. So I think Echo investors that we engage with, for the last 2 years that I've been in this space have and continue to be interested in targeted protein degradation. I think that's the first thing to say. I have observed that the appetite has become a little bit more cold over the last, let's say, 12 months. And that could be related to the industry more broadly, but I think it's also related to the fact that some of the clinical readouts that we've seen from the protein degraders have been fine. They've been okay, not as good as people may have hoped. And I think that has just kind of caused a little bit of, food for thought in the minds of investors, and influenced in particular this one key question of differentiation. So how different are especially bifunctional degraders going to be versus their inhibitor brothers or sisters? And I think that has kind of caused a little bit of food for thought for investors, and it's taking more and more time to help convince them of differentiation of certain targets that we've chosen, for example, for why a degrader approach is going to be the best approach for a given target. And it's taking a little bit longer to kind of get investors to seal the deal. And of course, valuations have been impacted as well, which is just more of a broader trend in the industry. But hopefully that gives you a couple of specifics around protein degradation. Lily, you may have some additional points to add.
Sure. I think in the investor environment, there are some differences between China and the US. As I can admit, you asked a question about BD. I think BD is really global. So for investment, I think now there's a little bit more barrier for pure US VCs to invest in Chinese companies right now. But the Chinese investors, they are, I think in the past decade, they had a lot of success investing in companies that are doing me too's, me betters, but are focused on China. So they say like in China for China, or that kind of thing. But now people realize that that's not a sustainable model going forward. So they're very much looking for truly innovative technologies. So that's something I want to mention. The other thing is for any company to raise money, whether in the US or in China. So I think first need to have a good platform, differentiated enough platform that's validated. I think at our stage, that was what we did for our A round. And right now, it's more about what is the product out of the platform. So the value is more driven by your lead programs. So you really need to find the best program that shows the value of the platform in every way. So that's really, I think, important for a company to have a good lead program that not only showcase, for example, for molecular glue degraders, we would really want to showcase that we can target the undruggable targets that's not been discovered by anybody else. So that is very important for us to sell to investors, and not only shows the value of the platform, but the program itself has to have a broad application in, we have an oncology program in multiple oncology indications. It has to have efficacy and good safety profile, and all of that become more important as the company progress. So I think both platform and programs are super important, and being in the cutting edge of innovation is also very important.
Mm. Thanks for sharing. Because of the limited time, so the last, I want to invite all the speakers give their forecast about what will happen in the TPD, and what do you see? You can either in the technology or the new application, or even like what the technology can support this drug development.
Maybe I'll start because it's easiest to go first on this one. But maybe I'll tee off something that Sanja said about investor excitement cooling a little bit. I think to get that revved back up again, I'd love to see some success or proof of concept for a non-PROTAC approach. One of the LITACs or any other sort of extracellular or any other sort of induced proximity degradation. That won't come from Arvinas, but I would love to see that. And I think the other one might be another therapeutic area success. So companies have been focused on oncology largely. We've got a program in neuroscience in LRRK2 starting in the clinic in the next year, but it doesn't have to be us. I would love to see a breakthrough in a different therapeutic area or a different technology.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think a lot of it is going to be dependent now on, like Sam mentioned, people have placed their bets. The companies forming in this space are less now. I mean, there are companies forming in autophagy degradation or some other, little bit differentiated ways, but the pace at which companies are forming protein degradation has slowed down significantly, and for good reason. Now it's a little bit mature phase of technology where clinical data will determine what happens next, So the programs that are in the clinic, not just from investor perspective, from pharma perspective as well. I mean, we have made small bets, but we have not gone wholeheartedly, investing billions of dollars as we have in ADCs into protein degradation yet, because we are sort of waiting for that data where, it's conclusively shown that protein degradation is better than inhibitors, for that matter, for targets, right? So, or protein degraders can conclusively do something in clinic that nobody else can. I think everybody's waiting for that data, be it in, biofunctional or glues or any other space, right? So once that happens, it's gonna pick up very, very fast. And we have seen that in other areas, neuroscience is one example. A beta is now every investor and big pharma wants A beta. Obesity, everybody wants it now. And, 2 years back, nobody wanted those things. So it can always happen, things like this. It's all determined by clinical data.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Nikhil. I think I want to see two things. One, I want to see a clinical readout that's favorable, of course, for a new molecular glue, for a target that is not one of the known neo-substrates. I think that will unlock tremendous momentum. And second, I want to see a clinical readout from a bifunctional degrader that clearly showcases differentiation versus inhibitors and kind of unlocks a patient segment that just couldn't be addressed by an inhibitor, whether that's treating resistant patients or otherwise. I think if you see those two things, and the field seems to be waiting to see those two things, and once we see them, I think you'll really unlock a tremendous wave. And I think it's just a matter of time, because there's so much validation under the hood of protein degradation. It's really about a good target that's been selected for the bifunctional degrader and a glue that can actually work for a novel target. Once you see those things in the clinic, to Nikhil's point, I think the show starts.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that too. I think people are waiting to see the Arvinas compound succeed, to show that bifunction, the BiDec degraders can be drugs, and also for glues, people also, I think the leading, other than the lenalidomide and pomalidomide, the IKZF1/3 degraders, the next target is GSPT1. So that remains to be seen, I think. But any good degrader showing clinical efficacy and safety would be a boost for the field.
Thank you for sharing. So to conclude today's panel discussion, I want to take a moment to celebrate the wonderful collaboration and the successful innovation, and also the continued unstopped exploration in this field. So we are really excited and also looking forward to their new therapeutics and the target and the new technology will happen in this field. So thanks again. I think today's panel, it really provides a very insightful and valuable the insights from all of you, and from the big pharma, from the leading company, and also from biotech company. I think this is very well rounded. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
So we're looking forward to continue this conversation. Maybe we can come back next year to see what are the validated. Thanks, and thanks everyone to join us. And if you have any question, you can email my team or can reach out to the speaker directly. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.